coronavirus pandemic is likely, in fact, already has hit the property market in South Africa as people continue to lose their income as a result of the lockdown. But for those looking to invest and save right now, is it a good time to buy property? Joining me to talk about this is founder and wealth expert at Wealth Alliance, Koketso Sylvia Milosevic. Koketso, good evening and thank you for your time tonight. Taking the fact that the property market is going to be impacted, it already has, so people maybe not buying homes as they were even pre-lockdown condition. The demand is still there. People will always need roof over their heads, but is this a good time to go in for a first-time home buyer?
Firstly, Thabo, thank you so much for having me on the show. And the answer to that question is a most definite yes, a huge, huge yes. So great opportunities usually lie in despair. So we've learned throughout history, and that's a beautiful thing about property. It gives us the historicals. So throughout history, we've learned that the best time to buy property as a property investor, it's during the recession, it's during the economic, meltdown or effects of the economy in whatever form. That's when property investors go out there to do their shopping, pretty much. So looking at other aspects right now happening in our market here in South Africa, lowest interest rates. I've never seen interest rates as low as I've seen them right now. Definitely not in my lifetime. The last time we saw interest rates as low as 7.25% was around 1973. So this is essentially such a huge, huge opportunity. If, let's say, for example, this past January, you bought a property and you bought a property for R1 million, with that current interest rate, your repayment would be close to around 9,600. Fast forward to where we are right now at 7.25%, your repayment towards your bond will be around 7,800 rands. So those are huge savings of literally over 2,000 that we are realizing now in the market. Again, also, the setting that's happening in the market, obviously, there are lots and lots of people who've been negatively impacted by what's happening with the current condition, with the pandemic happening right now in our country. People are losing jobs, people are getting salary cuts at the same time. And there's people right now in the market who are looking for assistance. People are looking to sell their properties. And that's where, as a property investor, you can go out there. First things first is make sure you educate yourself so you know what you're doing. We always believe that you invest in yourself first before you start investing in property. And also go out there and look at and study your areas, find out where is there a demand for at this time. Find out who are the people who are looking to sell their properties, but also make sure you always operate with integrity and make sure when you now engage in these types of deal making that you do it with integrity and also making sure that it's a win-win situation for both parties. Because people are, the sad thing is that people are going to be selling, but also people are going to be losing their homes to not being able to pay for their homes.
Is there a shift while we talk about people losing their homes and people selling? Because generally the trend is that we were seeing more and more people moving into metropolitan areas in pursuit of economic opportunity, and therefore the demand for shelter and housing was quite high. Now with companies not hiring as many, in fact companies letting go of people, a lot of people are moving out of the metros, going back to their home states. So are you seeing a shift in pattern in terms of demand for housing?
For your high density, most definitely not. What we're seeing, the trend is that, as a matter of fact, the bubble has burst. There's a huge effect on your high-end market properties, whereby those properties are losing value. So what we typically do is that we advise our students to say, particularly as a first-time property investor, my advice to you would be try and focus more on your entry-level market. We all know that people will always be looking for property, even during recession, even during what's happening right now in our market. People are buying property, but people are now, much more smart, and people are now, cognizant of saying, I don't want to spend all my money in one thing. I would rather diversify now. If I can afford to buy 2 or 3 properties, I wouldn't just buy one for let's say 3 million. I'd rather buy 3 or 6 for 3 million, because essentially at the end of the day, if you're looking to invest, you're looking to generate an income from that property. So the high-end market properties are not only just affected in terms of the price drops, but also we're also not seeing a huge amount of like demand in terms of the rental. So if you're now targeting that market, you will struggle to also get tenants to move into there.
Yeah, let's talk about rental in the commercial space. Are you seeing a drop in prices there? We know that most companies now would opt for people to work from home because obviously social distancing, and so there's no demand for huge spaces. Are we seeing a drop in those prices?
Most definitely. I would say the biggest players in the property investment space who are hurting the most are your commercial landlords at this point, because obviously, you know, there's a lot of businesses that have been heavily affected in the last few months, even though they might be back into operations. But the fact of the matter is that they've lost months of proper, you know, revenue income streams. And as a result, you know, those essentially will affect the leases as well. So yes, most definitely in the commercial space, due to now most industries moving on, getting the employees working virtually from home. And hey, it works better. It works better for savings for the employees in terms of having to save on transportation, and also for the employer as well. Instead, I mean, they're cutting down now on the high overhead costs of running their businesses. So yes, that's a sad thing, and those are some of the things that we've inherited from the pandemic. That's the reality. And yeah, that's what it is, you know.
How are financial institutions responding to, of course, low interest rates and the risk that they need to take in these uncertain times where people's hours could be reduced, where salaries could be cut, and, well, people still wanting to buy homes?
Right. I mean, what we've seen in the last few months, obviously, from our financial institutions is the COVID relief methods that have been extended towards, you know, all their clients, and also for property investors, they do have that option as well. Now, what the long-term repercussion of that will be, obviously, it will mean that once you've gotten your COVID relief, once your COVID relief period has ended, your interest rate will slightly be higher. But due to the fact that we now have lower interest rates, so you won't even feel that much impact, because at any rate before the COVID, you would have been paying a higher repayment amount. So I don't think the effects are going to be that drastic, but there are those options for those who are finding themselves in a position whereby their finances or their salaries are not enough to cover their living expenses. You can also opt for those measures as well. But just note that post the 3-day window period, your repayments will slightly be higher. And also educate yourself, what are those interest rates? So you know how will your repayment look like, you know. Yeah. So at least this 3 months gives you enough time to work on your finances, to educate yourself about what opportunities are out there. I think more than ever, this time has brought about a reset in our lives, a huge reset in our lives, to say, you know, moving forward, post even this season, how are you going to navigate through your life? You know, if anything, for me personally and for my students, I say this is a huge awakening to say let's start looking at creating multiple income streams. And creating multiple income streams starts with you getting yourself exposed to other ways of how you can make money, other ways on how you can create your own economy, so you don't have to rely on the government or other people or your employer, but you creating your own, you know, financial haven. So that for me is what this period has brought about, and this is what we essentially are teaching all of our students.
Talking of the education that is required in this time, how has the process of selling houses and buying houses been impacted during this time, particularly with the social distancing, the screening, and the viewing of homes being somewhat hampered by that?
So, you know, one of the opportunities that this period has brought is that it has taught us that, you know, actually we didn't even have any choice to find new ways on how to navigate this period, on how the new reality, pretty much. So right now what you're seeing from the real estate agents space is you find all these virtual property viewings There's also proper COVID relief measures that are put in play that both estate agents and also the sellers and the buyers will have to adhere to. Another thing that we're seeing as well is we are seeing slowly, not as much as we had expected, to be honest. There are properties that are going into the market where you do find motivated sellers. You also have buyers who are moving into the market, but you also have those buyers, the property investors per se, who are holding on and saying, we just want to see what happens for the next month or two. And people property investors are mostly waiting for the huge price cuts in property, so they can then move in and start buying properties.
Koketso,
so those are the dynamics that we're seeing right now.